Latest on President Trump's
Donald
trade
Trump
war.
is back and said the money molestation will stop. Okay. Donald Trump came out and said, I'm sorry for molesting the money. I'm not going to molest it any longer. Just a little bit of diddling. Just diddling. We're going to diddle the money, but no more molestation. He's just getting yelled at again by the same fucking libtards that he hated the last time around. And I guess he's caving. It's just, yeah, this is funny. Bro is shadowboxing and getting owned. Yeah, it's a real Baki situation. You know what I mean? You got Baki Hama getting his ass beat by his dad in his dreams, okay? This man came out and was like, I'm going to molest the money. It's me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put my hands all over the money. The bag is mine. And in a matter of like 3 weeks, it came out that, you know, nobody is fucking with him. All right. Nobody's rocking with Trump. America no longer has the motion that it once had. Lo and behold, everyone's shocked, except you wouldn't be shocked if you were watching me in the process, because I kept fucking saying that this is inevitably going to happen. He tried to go after China and say he's going to do 7 trillion he's going to do trillions of dollars in revenue. He's going to make trillions of dollars of revenue by just like doing 400% tariffs on China or whatever, with the express purpose of trying to decouple from our largest trading partner that comprises in and of itself 30% of our trade. And lo and behold, turns out everyone is getting Chinese goods, all the goods that have components that are getting manufactured in China. So obviously you can't just do something like this without nuking global trade in its entirety. Donald Trump also obviously famously did this by attacking all of his allies first as well, Mexico and Canada, which was insane, once again, especially insane considering that he had previously written a deal with Canada and Mexico in the first tenure, the USMCA trade agreement, that he was now reneging on. And, you know, turns out a lot of this stuff has had shockingly negative consequences for him. And he is slowly but surely unwinding. In the process, he also said he was going to fire the Fed chair. Now, we don't even know if he has the power to be able to do so. It seems like something that Congress has to do. And it turns out Trump is no longer doing money molestation. It turns out he is, you know, he's scaling back the money molestation that he was engaging in, scaling back on the tariffs in China, even though China never called him, even though he said he wanted China to call him and China never called. But now he's saying, oh, it's the calmer heads will prevail, he said. And now this, he said that he was going to fire Jerome Powell. And now he says he has no intention. What do you mean?
The president is backing off his threats to fire the Fed chair as his administration talks up a possible tariff deal with China. That sent markets soaring. Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce has the story. Good morning, Mary.
George, good morning. While the White House is well aware that the president's tariffs and his knocks on the Fed chair have caused turmoil in the markets, and they're trying to reassure anxious investors, the president now painting a rosy picture of these negotiations, but still not offering specifics. After his attacks on the independent chairman of the Federal Reserve spooked markets, this morning President Trump now says he has no intention of firing Jerome Powell, the Fed chair he appointed.
No, I have no intention.
Who appointed this man, Jerome Powell? Who appointed him? What kind of stupid idiot would appoint this guy, Jerome Powell? Art of the deal. I will fire him. Just kidding. I will not fire him. He's a good guy. I like him a lot. I did a very good job appointing him last time around, believe me.
Intention of firing him. I would like to see him be a little more active in terms of his idea to lower interest rates.
A change in tune after the president blasted Powell, calling him a major loser and saying Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. But most legal experts agree the president doesn't have the authority to fire Powell, who has 1 year left in his term. Trump's attacks sending markets into a nosedive. Wall Street is heading to its worst April
I love these photos, man.
since the Great Depression. The International Monetary Fund now warning Trump's tariffs will slow economic growth around the world, with the U.S. taking a significant hit. The White House now trying to reassure anxious investors. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent telling investors he expects a, quote, de-escalation of the trade war with China, saying the current situation is unsustainable. But the administration is sending mixed signals about the state of talks with China.
We're going to be very nice. They're going to be very nice. And we'll see what happens. But ultimately, they have to make a deal. I think it's a process that's going to go pretty quickly.
But the Treasury Secretary telling investors something very different, acknowledging China is going to be a slog in terms of the negotiations. The president refusing to say if he's talked directly to Chinese President Xi or if negotiations are underway between the two countries. Mr. President, you said you're ultimately going to make a deal with China, but where do things stand right now? I mean, have you talked to him? The secretary said these negotiations are going to be a slog.
My relationship with President Xi is great.
So you've talked?
It's been great for a long time. We've had a very good relationship, and I think we'll make a deal with China.
Now, despite the lack of specifics, the White House's positive outlook seemed to be enough for Wall Street recovering much of its losses from Monday, George.
Mary, on another front, we have new details on the security breach by the defense secretary.
Yeah, we do. Officials tell us that the attack plans that Defense Secretary Hegseth shared with family and friends on that Signal chat came directly from the CENTCOM commander, though he used highly secure communications to share that. This is the second time that Hegseth has been accused of sharing highly sensitive military plans over Signal. The first, when a journalist was inadvertently added to the chat. Hegseth continues to deny any wrongdoing, and the president is standing by him.
President Trump setting.
I love this because this kind of back and forth makes the dick riding of Trump fans undeniable and impossible to argue against. If you start off the conversation with tariffs are amazing and I'm glad that he's doing it, we're going to be onshoring, baby. And then Donald Trump turns around and says, no more tariffs, actually, except for China. And you say, hell yeah, actually, tariffs were kind of gay. And I'm glad that we're doing tariffs to China, but nobody else, actually. Thank God for our beautiful president. And then he says, I'm going to do tariffs. I'm going to do extra tariffs on China unless Xi Jinping calls me tomorrow. And then there's retaliatory tariffs that come from China. And everyone's like, oh, well, that's actually sick. Like, I'm glad that we're fucking over China. Why don't you make your stuff in America? Even though I make all my stuff in China as well, it turns out. Everything I buy is made in China, whatever. I'm not even going to think about that. Fuck it. It's actually a period of financial instability, but that's normal market stuff. That's normal market shit. Don't worry about it. And then now he's like, okay, I lied. Actually, I'm going to lower the tariffs. I want to de-escalate with China. Come on, please call me, Xi Jinping. And these guys have to turn around and still go, oh, excellent gambit, sir. Thank God you did all of this. Thank God. Thank God Donald Trump did all of this. I mean, oh my God. We really needed this, you know, a shock to the system for no discernible reason whatsoever. Did he accomplish any of his goals? Fuck no. Does it matter? Probably not. Not to his cult, at least. Money is fake. Donald Trump is showing that and also showing to anyone and everyone that is in the margins that still thinks like, oh, maybe Trump's got some good ideas, that no, he is an incompetent monster. Okay? That's it.
The stage for a trade deal with China as the administration says they could scale back on some of the new tariffs soon.
What happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? What's going to happen to all of the art of the deal people? Will anyone check in on them? Will they go, is this the deal? Is this the art or is this the deal? Where is the art of the deal? You just put a gun to your mouth and say you're going to fucking pull the trigger and then everyone's like, yeah, do it, pussy. Who cares? And then that's it. And then you're like, just kidding.
Hurry. Mark Meredith is at the White House with details. Mark, have the conversations with China actually started? Because it sounds like things are heading that way.
Steve Ainsley and Brian, good morning, friends. Well, Steve,
no, the answer is no. China has not, as a matter of fact, responded to the United States of America at all. They not only did not concede to the United States of America, they actually yesterday came out with a threat against the involvement. They came out with a threat against all of the other partners of the United States of America, as they are going through their own negotiations. And part of those negotiations are decoupling, forcing them to decouple from China, right? That's what America wants. America's saying, like, you have to also put tariffs on Chinese goods. You have to also decouple your trade from China. So China came out and said, this is like getting in the pen with a tiger. It will be dangerous for the European parties involved if you follow through on the Trump administration's belligerent demands, then you're only going to hurt yourself in the process. So not only did China not call the Trump administration yet, I do suspect that that will come eventually because they want stability. But on top of that, they also said, don't fucking put tariffs on Chinese goods if you're a European trade partner. What are you doing? Same with Japan. Same with all of the Asian partners. Yeah. China said, we'll go ban for ban. And they have been. They have been going. So then nothing ever happens. Chuds were right. I mean, this is very much things happening moment. I don't know what you mean by this. Nothing ever happens. Chuds don't think that there would ever be a multipolar world. Under normal circumstances, America could basically enforce its wishes upon China and all of the other global trade partners like that. There would be no issue whatsoever. Do you understand? The past couple of weeks for our global trade partners has been a moment of reconsideration, if they're smart enough, of course.
The White House was asked yesterday whether or not the president's engaged in a one-on-one talk with President.
Do you think China will back down without gaining serious concessions out of this from America? I don't think they'll get a lot of concessions from America. I think China will actually concede in an effort to maintain global trade stability. That's what my suspicion is. They'll offer something. They'll offer something to Donald Trump to make it seem like he's a big boy who actually did this, who dominated little old China. That's my suspicion. And the only reason why they will do that is because they benefit from global trade working the way it currently does. I don't think China at this stage wants to be the global reserve currency. Keep coping, man. I mean, I've been right so far. I don't know why you think I'd be wrong on this assessment. I mean, it's speculation. But I think China is incredibly restrained when it comes to its foreign policy and incredibly reasonable, sometimes even reasonable to a fault, really, when it comes down to trying to maintain global order, because they have worked within the existing structure and have seen tremendous success within. Xi won't bend the knee to the paper tiger. No, it's not a real bending of the knee, dummy. It's not. I never said that. I'm saying China will make slight concessions to the Trump administration to make it feel like, so that Trump can just, stroke his ego and present a W, like, oh, we dominated China. But before that happens, and it hasn't happened yet, obviously, this period of unprecedented global trade instability and market volatility is happening because China, I think, wants to use the temper tantrum being thrown by the fucking idiot in charge as a way to remind their global trade partners who the adults in the room actually are. I don't think that China wants, China's long-term interests do not revolve around, especially right now, becoming the global the global reserve currency, like replacing the dollar. I don't think they want to do that. I think they still have a lot more development. They want to keep developing their secondary markets, and they want to develop themselves as well. And it's not beneficial for China to become the global the global reserve currency in which trade is being conducted, because that would require, at least in the current landscape, in the way that politics works, international affairs works, in the current landscape, you need 800 military bases for that. China doesn't have 800 military bases.
President Xi of China and the White House not willing to go on the record with that, an indication that these conversations are still not happening at the most senior levels.
If you think China will make slight concessions, doesn't that mean that you think Trump holds more cards over them? No. The only fucking reason why they will inevitably make slight concessions in an effort to make it seem like Donald Trump won this fucking battle is because they still want... Donald Trump is saying, I have a nuke. I am going to nuke myself and the entire global marketplace. Of course, China doesn't want the entire global trade design to be nuked overnight. They stand to benefit from the way trade is conducted on the international stage. What do you mean? Yes, when you are the United States of America, putting a gun to your mouth and saying I'm going to pull the trigger is going to be quite impactful for that reason. America basically is looking at the situation in front of them. They've recognized that China is lapping us, okay? They recognize that China is far more developed. They recognize that China controls the refinement process for key resources that are necessary. Like, they have a lot of power, okay? And if you look at it like a board game, America basically recognizes that China is winning the board game. So they're saying, I'm going to literally flip the fucking table. I'm going to flip the table right now. If you don't, as a negotiation tactic, they're saying, I'm going to fucking flip the table if you don't meet my insane demands. But there are other players on the board game as well. And they're noticing that America is fucking saying they want to flip the table, which will create unprecedented chaos. Nobody wants that. So now China is looking at the other players on the table and saying, you see, this guy's a fucking asshole. He wants to blow up this goddamn game. I still want to play the game. Maybe I'll win the game in the end, but I still want to play the game. Do you want to continue playing the game, or do you want this person to fucking flip the table and no one wins? You are admitting that Trump holds the cards. I think you guys are some of the densest motherfuckers I've ever encountered in my entire life. If China wanted to flip the table, they could too. That doesn't mean they hold the cards, you fucking moron. If Trump held all the cards as the global hegemon, then China would have conceded overnight. Why has that not happened yet? Like, actually, fully conceded. Is this all the fucking Asmongoldиans that aren't getting? You don't let the bully get away? What? That's not how international relations work, man. What are you talking about? Nobody wants nukes to be launched, okay? Obviously. So you have to play you have to play this delicate tightrope when the guy controlling the global reserve currency is trying to fucking nuke it into oblivion for no reason, for no discernible reason. It takes time. You have to solidify your relationship with your global trade partners outside of America, because many of the most important markets that still import from China are within the sphere of American influence.
Either way, all three major U.S. stock indexes are set to open sharply higher today, given some of the news the president and Treasury Secretary made within the last 24 hours, suggesting that the trade war won't last forever. As you all three know, there's been a major sell-off on Wall Street ever since the trade war began.
We're doing fine with China. We're doing fine with I think almost every country.
This is great, yeah. Breaking, Scott Bessent has said in response to Trump's tariff announcements, more than 100 countries have approached us wanting to help rebalance global trade. In response to my coming into the room with a bomb strapped to my chest, more than 100 people have approached me wanting to help keep everyone alive. That's a perfect analogy.
In response to President Trump's tariff announcements, more than 100 countries have approached us wanting to help rebalance global trade.
Like, it was already... Dude... Amazing. Amazing. What they're stating here is that, yeah, we said we're going to fuck up the bag for everybody. We're going to fuck ourselves up, and it doesn't matter because we're insane. This is a suicide cult. So, yeah, now people are coming to us and being like, please don't do that. Whatever you want, just don't do that. That would be terrifying for everyone involved. Yeah. Ironically enough, one of the famous instances of these countries coming over was Japan. Japan is a fucking vassal state, okay? We wrote their constitution. We have so much control over Japanese affairs, okay? We, as in the United States of America. And they were one of the first countries to directly come in and bring in a trade committee to talk to the Trump administration about what their demands were. They left with no deal. And they said... in the aftermath of those trade negotiations, that Americans were so belligerent that they didn't even know what they wanted out of Japan. So what do you do with that information? That's the one country that is supposed to unconditionally offer full-throated support to the United States of America, and they're like, we want to support you, but we don't even know what you want. We want to support you, Mr. President, Mr. Trump, okay? You are the great white hope, but we don't even know what you want. What do? What do you do?
These countries have responded openly and positively to the president's actions to create a more balanced international system. We are engaged in meaningful discussions and look forward to talking with others. In response to President Trump's tariff...
Yeah, he got yelled at, by the way, because CEOs warned that there would be empty shelves and mass inflation. A lot of people geared up for his tariff threats early on, and Apple was sending 5 cargo planes worth of merchandise. They literally shipped in 5 planes full of merchandise to the United States of America to at least withstand the first couple of months of Donald Trump's insane tariff shit until he calms down, right? And all of these guys have done the same. A lot of these companies have basically tried to make up for what kind of loss of revenue they're going to have and loss of inventory that they're going to experience once the tariffs hit, right? So there is a month and a half remaining on readily available inventory. So they had to go to Donald Trump and be like, okay, we thought you would have stopped this tariff shit by now, but seems like you're still pushing it. So we are here to inform you that, you got 2 months maximum until you're looking at empty shelves and massive panic by consumers.
Everybody wants to have involvement with the United States. 145% is very high, and it won't be that high. We were talking about fentanyl, where, various
I think the only thing you're not considering is that a supply shock of any kind right now, like a conflict in the Middle East started by our genocidal 51st state, would nosedive our economy. And I don't know if China / the rest of the world wants to pick up U.S. debt at the moment.
elements built it up to 145. No, it won't be anywhere near that high.
Making the corpos bleed is kind of cool, though. Yeah, except you live here. You don't live in Germany. So when the corpos are bleeding, you also don't get to purchase the things that you need. I think a lot of people fail to consider that a lot of this impact certainly will hurt rich people, but it'll hurt rich people a lot less than it hurts you. Like, you won't have access to food. Well, maybe not food, because a lot of agriculture is domestic, but like things that food is packaged in. You know what I mean? Like this right here is a pack of Zyn. Okay, 3 milligram coffee flavored nicotine pouch Zyn. This is manufactured in the United States of America. Okay, I believe Philip Morris owns it. So the irony is that while this pack of Zyn is manufactured in Richmond, Virginia, the plastic that the package is in is most likely made in China. The plastic is refined in China, and the packaging is most likely made in China. Okay? Even down to the glue that holds this glossy finish sticker on top of the Zyn. You understand? In terms of the Zyn pouches, like the material that's made of the Zyn pouches, like a big part of it is imported. A lot of that is imported from China. When you cut a fuck ton of the things, like it's not like Zyn tomorrow is going to be like, all right, well, I guess we can restructure our procurement strategies and just like, you know, find a fucking plastic manufacturer, like a plastic refinement facility in the United States of America, and find a way to make these cheap ass plastic containers that the Zyns are coming in. You can't do that. What people fail to consider is so much. The way that global trade is designed, like so many of the things that you think are like manufactured or assembled in the United States of America are still relying on parts, ingredients, components that are manufactured in many circumstances, China.